Welcome back, travelers. It's another beautiful morning here in Norway. It's actually not as cold as it looks. Only 32 degrees. But it's slightly overcast. And as you can see, the wind is whipping up something fierce.
We haven't crossed the Arctic Circle yet, although it sure looks like we're getting close. Today we'll make a quick stop in the village of Brønnøysund. The town's claim to fame, as you can see from the map, it's right smack in the center of Norway. There's also the Hurtigruten, a mountain with a hole in it. You can hike up and walk through it, but not today, thank you. Fortunately, the weather cooperated just enough to get a shot of it. And notice once again that while I am braving the elements up top, Judy is all cozy down in the lounge with a cup of tea, no less. Oh, the things I do for my art. But so worth it. Where else can you find views like this? Hey Judy, I hope that tea warmed you up, because it's time to bundle up and go outside. And we're wearing our slip-on ice cleats, the essential Norwegian fashion accessory, which we bought on the ship. The landscape is beautiful, but there's not much to see in this small town. But there's a church just up the road. Might be worth a look, so let's head out into the winter wonderland that is Brønnøysund.
Here in tropical Brønnøysund, where the weather is just a winter wonderland worthy of a Courier and Ive sprint. There's a frigid lake, beautiful homes, all dusted with snow. It's very idyllic looking and also very cold.
After an invigorating 15-minute walk, we arrive at the church. Built in 1870, it looks pretty good for 150 years old. We take off our spikes before we go inside. The interior's pretty plain, in keeping with Lutheran style, but there's a beautifully restored pipe organ, and it seems we're right on time for a demonstration. And that concludes today's Minute of Devotion. Amen. On the way back to the ship, the skies darken and take on an ominous tone. As if they didn't have enough snow already, it looks like they're expecting more. It's getting colder too as we hustle back to the ship, but we still had to plod through 2 feet of snow to pose in front of the Brønnøysund sign to commemorate our day smushing through the snow in the frigid heart of Norway. Like I always say, if you wanna be a world traveler, you gotta be tough. And despite the cold, it was fun to walk around in snow that we didn't have to shovel. Back on board the ship, all fingers and toes safely accounted for, it's time to warm up, and that means it's time for lunch. We started with a bowl of smoked reindeer stew, a traditional recipe from the indigenous native Sami people of northern Scandinavia who raise and herd the reindeer. Hearty and tasty, that'll warm you up. Next, a bowl of locally sourced mussels topped with local cheese and chorizo. Delicious. And roasted potatoes. Those Norwegians love their roasted potatoes. They came with almost every meal. A totally satisfying and, yes, heartwarming meal. But I wasn't about to pass up dessert. Norwegian donut fingers, sprinkled with granulated sugar, Nutella, and homemade Norwegian strawberry jam. A total sugar bomb. No guilt here. I just hiked 1.5 miles in the snow. But now, I think it's time for a nap. After all, I am on vacation. Tonight, around 9 o'clock, we will cross the Arctic Circle. And there's supposed to be a little ceremony up on the top deck. But when we got there, it looked like this. That storm front we saw earlier in the day, I think we sailed right into it. We've had enough snow and ice for one day, so we decided to skip that party. Besides, I'm sure there will be more snow tomorrow. Today we're in Lofoten, a chain of islands, or archipelago, jutting out into the Arctic Sea. For centuries, it's been the center of the Norwegian codfish industry, as the cold water fish come here to spawn. And those big fish are big business for Norway. The fresh cod is shipped to Great Britain to become fish and chips, but much of it is salted and laid out to dry on these giant racks and exported around the world as bacalhau. As we approach the island, once again the skies are overcast and gray, but there are hints that it may clear up. Let's hope so, because we're taking a bus tour up the coast to a picturesque traditional fishing village. We have arrived at Henningsfair, high above the Arctic Circle. Looking out into the distance, it feels like we've reached the end of the world.
I can see why the Vikings believed in Valhalla. Look at this beautiful landscape. The ever-changing light. It goes from tones of gray to pink to blue and everywhere in between. And the mountains look very ethereal, like they could just vanish in the mist.
Say hello from the end of the world.
Hello from Norway, from Lofoten Islands.
Let's take a little stroll around Henningsfair, where they've been fishing cod for hundreds of years. Speaking of haddock, the town did have a slight fishy smell in the air, which was not surprising. But the aroma grew more intense as we walked up the main street, and I thought, we must be approaching a restaurant. But then I looked over my shoulder, and there they were, hundreds of fish drying in the open air on huge racks. After all the bacalhau we've eaten in Portugal, it was pretty cool to see them at the source. We really enjoyed our brief visit to Henningsfair. We'll never make it to the North Pole, but we feel we've come close.